I'm the next Prime Minister of Canada.
In this video, I am going to delve into the gaslighting, political opportunism, and the downright lies of Pierre Poilievre, the guy that wants to be Canada's next Prime Minister. His propaganda spreads across his entire political agenda and is peppered with a blizzard of meaningless and empty slogans such as,
what would a conservative environmental plan look like? We know what you don't want in terms of the carbon tax, but what do you want to see to deal with climate change?
With an April Fool's Day, joke's on you, carbon tax, my common sense plan is to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, stop the crime. My focus has been on axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, stop the crime. Common sense plan to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, stop the crime.
Dear God, does he not have a better speechwriter or somebody who can come up with better slogans than this pap that he's feeding to the Canadian public? What is his alternative to this carbon tax? What is he going to do? What is his party going to do? If he becomes the Prime Minister, how is he going to tackle climate change? Let's get into it and take a look over the next few minutes and just see for yourself what this guy is peddling to Canadians.
A lot of naysayers are saying you don't have a climate action plan. Do you have an answer for that?
We need is a common sense plan to greenlight green projects. We need to greenlight nuclear power for Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, and New Brunswick. We need to greenlight more hydroelectric dams, carbon capture and storage. We need more natural gas liquefaction facilities so that we can ship our clean gas over to Asia. Natural gas. We have 1,300 trillion cubic feet of natural gas beneath our feet. My common sense plan will repeal C-69 and grant rapid permits to environmentally friendly and strategically important projects like LNG facilities. We will cool that gas to minus 161 degrees Celsius, ship it off to Asia.
He's talking about increasing greenhouse gases as opposed to decreasing them. And of all places he's talking about doing it is with China. When Poilievre was in the Harper government, where did Harper go? He went over to China and he was sucking up to the Chinese. He is forever accusing Justin Trudeau of being a communist and being too close to China.
Something weird is going on about the relationship between Trudeau and China. I don't know what it is, and I won't speculate, but one would have to be breathtakingly dumb or worse to repeatedly make decisions at your nation's expense in favor of a hostile power the way he has done.
Well, let's take a look at this video and see his old boss, Stephen Harper, traipsing around Beijing, inspecting the army troops as he gets feted by the Chinese government.
Let me repeat that. We have abundant supplies of virtually every form of energy, and we want to sell our energy to people who want to buy our energy. It's that simple.
Oh, that's gotta hurt. In recent weeks, he's been forced to explain what his alternatives to the carbon tax would be in terms of dealing with the climate change crisis that the world is facing. Incredulously, he came up with some examples that are quite frightening, to be honest about it. He wants to build more nuclear power plants all across Canada. He says that he wants to get into building small nuclear modular reactors, which is an unproven technology. There's not one modular reactor anywhere in the world that's operational today. Granted, in Ontario, they're trying to build 2 or 3 of them in the Darlington nuclear power plant. Nuclear power is the most expensive form of electricity. So the cost to not only build these nuclear power plants, which falls back on ratepayers because they have to pay for the money that the governments borrow to build nuclear power plants, that comes back onto your electricity bill every month. And then on top of that, you'll be paying 17 cents. Now, if compare that to Quebec, where they're paying 4 or 5 cents a kilowatt hour. Now, if people today are complaining about the small increase in gasoline as a consequence of the carbon tax, Just you wait and see the hollering and the screaming that will be taking place when they find out that not only are they paying for expensive nuclear power plants, but they're going to be paying 17 cents. So if there's an increase of even 3% in the cost overruns for building a nuclear power plant, that will push the electricity rates up to 21 cents a kilowatt hour. Now, you think that it's bad today, the price of gas? Wait till you see what the price of electricity will look like. So one of the biggest whoppers of a lie that he's told has surely got to be his presentation to the Board of Trade around housing. This is the Board of Trade in Vancouver again. During his speech, he basically said that municipalities are responsible for 60% of the cost of building a new home.
Well, the answer is government is standing in the way. What is the number one cost to building a new home in Vancouver today? Land, labor, lumber, permits. Government represents 60% of the cost of a newly built home in Vancouver today. 60%. So the 40% is what you use to pay for the worker, for all the lumber and the drywall and the land. This is insane.
And this is a consequence of the delays in issuing permits and the bureaucracy at the municipal level. And he's going to penalise these folks if they don't issue permits on a fast-track basis. He's going to cut their transfer payments. Now, by the way, if you cut transfer payments to municipalities, that means that property taxes is going to have to go up because municipalities need to be able to maintain their communities. But leaving that aside for a moment, so he's basically saying that 60% is the cost. Well, the cost of a 2,000 square foot home in the greater Vancouver area is approximately $1.9 million. So to take his example, 60% of that $1.9 million is the responsibility of the municipality because of their delinquency in issuing permits. That would translate into $1.1 million. Now that is complete and total hogwash. And why somebody from the real estate industry or why a municipality didn't stand up at this Board of Trade meeting and challenge, the guy and say, look, that's wrong. That's simply just not true. However, they did not do it. But here's the interesting part. In Ontario, there's an organisation called BILD, B-I-L-D, the Building Industry and Land Developers. They did a study which was reported in the National Post, and Lord knows the National Post is no left-wing newspaper. Regardless, BILD came up with this report that looked at that very question about what is the cost of the delays at the municipal level in approval of permits to build new homes. And it turns out the cost is $50,000, not $1.1 million, as alleged by Pierre Poilievre, but $50,000. And that could increase up to $100,000 if you add in the cost that municipalities generally ask builders to do, green spaces, playgrounds for kids, and road maintenance, and whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, it is only a tiny fraction of what Poilievre is telling. But of course, he needs homeowners to be on his side. He needs them to be mad at somebody. And the issue really is, it's all about how do we get rid of regulations? How do we get rid of health and safety regulations? How do we get rid of environmental regulations? So the thing is to have all of the homeowners or the new potential homeowners madder than hell at municipalities because they're insisting on environmental regulations, health and safety regulations, etc. It's the game he always plays. He really is about corporations. How can I make it easier for corporations? It's the one common thread that runs through every one of Pierre Poilievre's policies.